Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I am Stephanie L. Willis, and I am still with you. So glad to be with you this afternoon. We were originally supposed to cover the Bradley Farrington case today. It was supposed to start today, but we recently learned earlier this morning that because of some stuff that happened over the weekend, a mistrial was declared. So we are lucky enough to have our senior trial producer, Cathy Russon, with us out of Grant County, New Mexico. She's at the Grant County courthouse right now. Cathy, thanks so much for being with us. How are you today in sunny New Mexico?
I'm good. It's sunny, but it's deceiving. It's very windy and cold.
Well, Cathy, we do know that we were supposed to cover this trial, and Bradley Farrington apparently was a former Silver City police officer who has been charged with the murder of Cathy Marie Farrington, who was 23 at the time. Talk to us a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, the trial was supposed to start with opening statements this morning, and the judge and attorneys were in chambers for a long time, like an hour and a half, and we weren't getting any updates. And then they brought the jury in, and the judge sat down, and he apologized to the jury and said that he's had no choice but to declare a mistrial, and he released that jury. And that was the only information given in court. So I was able to get the information after that. The state apparently did not disclose some of the autopsy photos to the defense, and this just came out this morning.
Well, this is kind of it seems like a repeat pattern from the state, because we do know that this trial was continued previously because of some type of evidence that wasn't not evidence wasn't turned over, but last minute evidence that they were trying to get in. Am I correct?
Right. This case has all kinds of twists and turns, but the original autopsy done by the medical examiner here put her manner of death as homicide, but they didn't have the cause of death, how she actually died. Then, like a year and a half later, or maybe 2 years later, the state sought out another opinion, and that private pathologist, not linked to this county, said just by reading the autopsy report that it's definitely strangulation, and they didn't know why the medical examiner didn't call it strangulation. So then the state asked for a delay in November because they needed their expert to now review the second autopsy opinion. So they got that delay. However, the pathologist that said it was strangulation didn't want to be involved in the case.
Wow.
So the prosecutor had to go find someone else, and that was going to be their expert. So that was the delay. Well, now here we are on the morning of trial, and it apparently happened over the weekend. That's how the judge said that over the weekend, some issues have come to light, and it turns out that some of the autopsy photos, I'm assuming it has to be from the original autopsy, were never turned over to the defense.
Well, that's crazy. To bring our viewers up to date or up to speed as to what this case is actually about, if you missed it while Jesse was speaking about it a little bit this morning, Cathy Marie Farrington, who was 23 at the time, was found fully clothed, facing face down in a bathtub full of water on March the 24th of 2014. And this is what the autopsy reported. What we do know is that the medical examiner who examined her said that it was a homicide, but could not decipher what was the actual cause. Am I correct, Cathy?
Right. They didn't know. She was badly beaten and found face dead, fully clothed in her bathtub. But the medical examiner could not determine what killed her exactly. It wasn't the injuries they could see physically. Except now that the second opinion came out that they said it was strangulation.
Right, and we do know, I know that you said that it was the state who obtained, I guess, the second opinion, but from my research or from what my reading that I was doing about this case, it seems as if, I think it may have been the sheriff's department or the police department who may have sent over the autopsy to someone else and not actually the prosecutor. Am I correct?
That is true. They did it on their own. A member of the sheriff's department, I believe, sent it to for a pathologist in California, so he must have had some kind of tie to that person. And the prosecution said in the previous hearing that they didn't know that was happening. That was not under their authority, and they did not ask for that to be done. But now that it was done, they wanted to bring it into trial.
But doesn't that sound mighty convenient? Now that it has been done and we knew nothing about it, but we want to admit this evidence in. I just think that that's mighty convenient on their part. And I mean, as a judge, I don't even know if I would have let it in. What do you think? I know the
Right.
judge did, but I'm sorry. What do you think? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, and that's true. That is surprising to me, but he did allow it in.
Right.
You know, I covered a case out of Utah, the Martin McNeil case, where the doctor and his wife was found dead in the bathtub, and it's very similar. The medical examiner didn't even rule her death as a homicide. They ruled it as an accidental drowning, and the prosecutors ended up going out and seeking 2 different opinions from different medical examiners until they finally got it changed.
Wow, wow. That's something that you don't hear about a lot, or I hope that you don't hear about a lot, because usually that's not the way that things work. So we do know, as Cathy just told us, that again we're going to have to wait again because a mistrial was declared in the Bradley Farrington matter because of some autopsy photos that were not handed over to the defense. And I'm surprised that we don't, not surprised, but I do know that this was probably the judge considered this to be a Brady violation, and that's probably the reason why that a mistrial was declared. So, you know, as soon as we hear more about this case, Cathy, if you do hear more about this case, please be sure to let us know all the juicy tidbits, all the juicy legal tidbits that are going on over there, because, you know, this is something that I'm sure the defense is not very happy about.
Well, I will say, Stephanie, that we spoke to the Cassie's parents after they gave an interview out here on the steps.
Wow.
And just the gist of it is, it'll be next month. It will have been 4 years since she was killed, and they've gone through a lot, as we see what's happening with many victim families, to get to this point, just to have it delayed again. Her mother was in tears as she was talking about it. They said they have to concentrate on raising her kids and their grandkids. And they use the word closure. They want to get some closure.
As most families would. You know, as you said, this has been 4 years, and you can only imagine. I would think that they'd be very upset at the state at this point, because this is the second time that this case is being continued, and not by the hands of the defense. It's presumably the state's fault in both instances. So, you know, this is. I
will tell you that we asked them how they feel about the prosecution, and they had nothing but praise for them.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I don't know how that would have played out in other places, but I'm glad that they had nothing but praise for the prosecution in this case. But Cathy, I want to thank you so much for being with us this morning, or this afternoon, sorry, to provide us with an update in the Bradley Farrington matter. And, you know, we know that it's sunny and windy out there, so we're not going to keep you out there too long. But thank you so much. If you do hear anything more about this case, we'd love to have you back on so that we can talk about it. Thanks, Cathy, and we'll talk later.
Thank you, Stephanie.
We're going to continue on covering this George Birch matter. As we stated, it's Wisconsin versus George Birch. We are waiting for court to resume. They are still on a lunch break, and we expect them to return back at 2 p.m., which should be in about another 22 minutes. And so as soon as we do know that they come back into the courtroom, we'll be sure to bring you our coverage here on the Law and Crime Network. What we're going to do now is we're going to take you way back to the beginning of the trial, where we're talking about Douglas Dietrich. Douglas Dietrich did take the stand. Douglas Dietrich, we know, is Nicole van der Heiden's boyfriend, and he was originally the suspect who the investigators interviewed in this case for Nicole's murder. So we're going to start. Excuse me. We're going to we're going to look at his testimony from the very beginning. We're going to take you to that right now. You recall